doing such important work.
Thank you. Thank you. There's so many things we could talk about. Let's start with the most recent book. And Fields of Blood has a profound resonance with the ethos of the Berkeley Center, with the idea that our religious traditions can be resources for us as we try to wrestle with the forces of modernity, post-modernity, the kind of challenges that are defining this moment in our world today. And as you work that through, the argument in the book, the notion that the received wisdom in contemporary public discourse, that religion is inherently violent, is one that you went directly at addressing. So tell us a little bit about the argument, and also, well, let's start there. Tell us about how you...
Well, for years I thought, especially in my earlier books, I thought religion did have a sort of inherent violence. But then I began to read about how peculiar our notion of religion is in the modern West. It's now central to our secular consciousness that we see religion as a sort of a private quest that is separate from other activities, but something that should be excluded rigorously from public life. It was part of our modernization, part of our enlightenment, and we're so used to it now that it's very strange to hear for people that no other culture has anything like it. And it would seem very strange to most Europeans until the years about 1700. Because the words that we usually translate religion have a much wider frame of reference. Deen in Arabic means a whole way of life. Dharma too. The Oxford Classical Dictionary says quite firmly that no word in either Greek or Latin corresponds to the English religion or religious. Religion permeated all aspects of life because we're meaning-seeking creatures. Where dogs, as far as we know, don't spend a great deal of time agonizing about the canine condition or the plight of dogs in other parts of the world, we do. And we fall very easily into despair if we can't find some significance in our lives. So religion permeated, so tried all aspects of life, and that would have included warfare and statecraft. And the prophets of Israel had very little time for people who said their prayers mostly in the temple, but neglected the plight of the poor and the oppressed. Jesus, a very political figure. The prophet, peace be upon him, the whole message of the Quran is about equality, building the jihad, the struggle to build a decent society where people of all ethnicities and persuasions can live together in peace and harmony and respect, and to share your wealth equally. That's the bedrock message of the Quran, not warfare. So trying to take politics and religion apart would have been like trying to take the gin out of the cocktail. So thoroughly were the two imbued with one another. And then you start looking through, even the Crusades, for example, we think of them as the quintessential holy wars. And certainly, religious passions were involved. But so was politics. The Pope's aim was to make an impression on the Eastern Orthodox Church by going into the East. He was also using the Crusade as an attempt to usurp the king's right to summon Europe to arms. And as the Crusades went on, the political impact of a crusade at home actually seemed to matter more to the crusading leaders than what actually happened in the Holy Land. And what's fascinating about the story of the Crusades is the Jihad. You'd think that after the first Crusaders descended upon Jerusalem, the third holiest city in the Muslim world, and slaughtered the entire population, so that 5 months later they still hadn't managed to bury all the bodies. You'd think that after that atrocity, 9/11 would be a little pinprick. The whole Muslim world would have descended upon the Crusaders in wrath. Not a bit of it. For 50 years, the Crusaders who set up their little states in the Near East, our first Western colonies, lived alongside the other Muslim emirs who went on fighting one another for booty and territory as usual. And when it took finally Salah ad-Din and Nur-ad-Din 30 years to build up the spirit of jihad. The jihad spirit had been dead, and it was revived by a prolonged assault of crusades from the West. And similarly, the wars of religion, they're always cited, and they were at the basis